And welcome back to Hannity. Now, as we've been mentioning all throughout the show, we wanted you, our viewers, to be a part of our Capitol Hill focus group. And you've been sending questions via Twitter and Facebook with the hashtag AskSean. And out of the thousands of responses that we've gotten, the top 5 are these that you want the lawmakers to address. Number 1, when will you do your job? They'll answer that. Number 2, keep focusing on Benghazi. Number 3, why is the government such a mess? 4, is it time for term limits? And finally, how will we end the lying in Washington as we bring back our studio audience? And I guess Congressman Kelly is next. Congressman, first of all, who would support term limits? Not everybody. All right, mixed. A lot of people, you look at the dissatisfaction rate with Congress, people say they blame both parties, obviously the lies on Obamacare. What can people do in your position to bring back confidence in government?
Well, I think they can follow the same example the president says. He says, I've got a phone, I've got a pen. I think people need to get on their phone. They need to start writing letters. But what they also have to do, I want the president to use that phone to call Harry Reid and say, hey, Harry, we got some 40 jobs bills sitting on your desk. Let's move them, debate them, amend them, get them back to me. And I guarantee you, he would get writer's cramp in his left arm signing all that legislation and putting it into law. But the number one thing we have to do, Sean, now the president's going to be in Pittsburgh today. He'll be in the Steel City talking with people at U.S. Steel, men and women at U.S. Steel. He's going to be talking and walking with the same people that I walk with and talk with every day when I come out of Mass or come out of Kmart. He has to listen to what the people have to say. The people don't have to listen. Listen, this is a government that's supposed to serve the people.
Those bitter people that cling to their guns, Bibles, and religion.
Thank God we do.
Yeah, thank God. Congressman.
We'd love to have you in Florida, just a pitch for the Sunshine State. Look, I think what some of the voters see is a disconnect between Washington, a ruling class up here, and the rest of the country. You have millions of people who don't feel like they have any representation at all, a lot of taxpayers who feel like their money is wasted. So some of these structural reforms, like term limits, like a balanced budget amendment, making sure Congress lives under the terms of the laws they pass, I think that would help give the American people some confidence.
Are congressmen fighting, Republicans fighting too much amongst themselves? Does there need to, keep it simple, stupid? I always kind of, is it the 5-item agenda that maybe the American people need to hear? I remember Newt Gingrich, elect us, we'll do these 10 things. Is it time for something similar so that...
As a dentist, I love the KISS theory, keep it simple, stupid. But
yeah.
It also means you also have to have strategy. And America doesn't believe that Washington, D.C. is held to the same standard as they are. And that's why we have to have a strategy to put the president on his heels, make sure that there's justice in this country, and getting rid of the Attorney General is the #1 issue to do just that.
There is a lot of lawlessness. We talked about it.
Absolutely.
Congressman, what do you think?
Well, I think many of us are doing our jobs. We're fighting to protect the Constitution and create jobs. And the big sea change that happened last night was, Jason mentioned, many of us have sat through 6 State of the Unions, but it's not what we heard last night. The big thing last night was the disconnect the American people felt between what this president said and the fact that only 1/3 of Americans last night felt they were better off last night than they were when the president was elected.
Yeah. We've had 2 polls come out this week, NBC, Wall Street Journal, ABC, Washington Post. Congressman, how do we bring confidence back in Washington? I would think a lot of it is rooted in creating jobs and getting a balanced budget, no?
Well, I think that's right. And we need job creation strategies and policies. But it's very hard to legislate in divided government with a president who won't work with us, a Senate that won't work with us on time-tested methods of getting good policies in place to create jobs, energy, trade policy, opening new markets, things like that, rolling back the regulatory state. But the one thing we can do in divided government is oversight. Cast sunshine on these really awful policies. Really dig. Work hard. Jason's doing that. We've been doing that on Ways and Means with the IRS. Devin has been working on Benghazi. Those are the kind of things we need to do.
I want to make sure I get everybody. Congresswoman, what if the president follows through on his threat on executive orders?
Well, we need to make sure that doesn't happen. He needs to, instead of going around Congress, he needs to work with Congress. And I think it's really important. And most Americans know what we are against. We are against the president's policies for this nation. But I think it's important for all of us in this room to articulate what we're for. And I think laying out the differences, the better alternatives we have for energy, for taxes.
Congressman, we got to get you 2 guys in.
Sean, let me say what wasn't said last night. So the ranger that served 10 tours fighting al-Qaeda got the longest ovation. Not one mention of al-Qaeda. And al-Qaeda is stronger today than they ever have been.
Interesting. Last word, Congressman.
Well, my biggest takeaway from last night was that when it comes to health care, the president, one, he admitted, there was an admission that his plan wasn't working. because you can't fix something that's
That's
already
why you all
working.
laughed?
That was an admission. But the second point was the laughter and how the president mocked the American people who are going through so much pain and suffering. It is a real issue in the homes of the families that were watching last night. And he just laughed, and he created laughter about an issue that is so personal to the American people who have lost their insurance.
It's not funny for the 6 million people that don't have insurance anymore, and he said you'd be able to keep the plan. I hope you guys can unite behind 5 strong issues and help change the country. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. And the American people I know do as well. It's great to hear from all of you. Thank you all. Now